the parent themselves don't remember how to do it.
Don't remember it.
And so they're a little afraid.
Because it's not like we use it in our everyday lives.
Never.
Welcome back to Homeschooling Hypothesis. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Erika. And today we're going to talk about math. All right. Math is scary for a lot of people.
I hate math.
For you? You hate math? I love math.
I'm becoming less afraid of it.
Okay. I've always loved math.
Because I have not. Math was a clear indicator in elementary school that I was stupid. I could not get it. Yeah, it wasn't until like my junior and senior year that I think my brain was finally starting to click on things. I'm like, oh.
I think that's a big reason why so many people don't like math, though, is because they don't get it. They don't understand the why of math and the hows of math. And if you don't understand why something works, you don't know how to relate it to other problems of the same kind. And most of the people that I've talked to as I've gotten older, and other moms who are like, I hate math, it's because they don't.
Yeah, it was incredibly frustrating. But yeah, I'm not afraid of it anymore. I can do it, and it's actually kind of interesting sometimes.
How do you feel about spiders, though?
I'm fine with spiders. I killed 2 black widows yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So I'm fine. I'm fine with them.
I'd so much rather tackle math.
Yeah, I'll tackle the spiders.
Okay.
If you do my math for me.
Okay, so what math have you tried that you've liked with your kids?
So, like I said last time, I don't do very much research, and then I pick something and stick with it. But we do Life of Fred, which is it's very unconventional math. So the books look like this. This is Butterflies in the elementary series. I think it's like the 3rd book. But it follows Fred there, and it's a story where math is involved. He's a teacher at a university in Kansas, made up of course. Fred is.
Okay.
Yes. But he's 5 years old. I mean, the story is kind of all ski-wampus. You learn lots of other things besides math. You go through the story and
this is written not like a textbook. It's written like a story.
No,
right?
it's like story time.
Okay.
Story time with math in it. So, and this is one of the very elementary ones. Like I said, it's like the 2nd or 3rd book of the series. So you start learning how to tell time and, just really basic things while Fred goes on his little journey. But it is really fun, and like I said, he defines bewildered. You learn new words. Bewildered, confused, puzzled, mystified. And then he'll throw in a history fact in there, and he'll just go off on tangents that are just fun.
Okay.
So we're doing that. We're almost to the end of the elementary series. Well, we have done it. We're going back because of review, but then it goes all the way up to calculus.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it's the whole schmear. So yeah. So we're starting on that, and that's what we do formally. And we do Math on Khan Academy, which is free and awesome.
Mm-hmm. Khan Academy is a great resource for
I love Khan Academy.
A lot of things.
It's they asked me a question. It's like, did you check on Khan Academy first? Let's check on Khan Academy. So they'll do that if I feel that we need a little more math time. And then other than that, we just kind of do lifestyle math things. We'll bake, and I'll say, okay, we're going to double the recipe. Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
Doubling recipes is
lots of fractions in there.
Sometimes we get wild and triple the recipe. Really throws them off.
That's a lot of cookies.
Yeah.
Tripling
usually
is hard.
It won't be for baking. Usually be for cooking a meal because there's 7 of us, and so a meal for 4 often won't feed us. So a lot of times we'll triple it so we have leftovers.
Yes. Yeah. So
it's
like lifestyle math. We're fixing up fences and yard work, and that involves measuring and and perimeters and area, volume, and then other resources that I know of that a lot of people rave about are Dragon Box. I do believe that's a subscription. I don't think that's free.
Okay.
And then there's Saxon Math and Singapore Math that I've heard a lot of people use and a lot of people enjoy.
Yeah, I know one of our core 5 her kids all use Saxon. Mm-hmm. And I guess they like it and it works well for them because I think they've been using it the whole way through.
I think, lots of people go with Saxon Math. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work and you try something else.
Yeah. Saxon is textbook. Mm-hmm. It comes with consumables, and I don't think they have an online version, but last time I looked they didn't, but they could now. It's possible they do now.
Mm-hmm. I imagine so. There's so many resources exploding because of this
And
Stupid
Life
virus.
of Fred, does that even have consumable? Does that even have like problems and workbooks, or is it just the story?
I do believe there are workbooks you can purchase.
Okay.
Can't get Life of Fred on Amazon, I don't think. I'll check. But you can get it on other learning resources.
A great resource for homeschool is Rainbow Resource.
Yes.
Rainbow Resource is fabulous for homeschooling curriculum and add-ons like manipulatives and supplemental stuff. So Dragon Box, is that like a subscription box?
No, it's an online thing.
Okay.
It's not like a box that comes to your door.
Okay.
But you do have to pay for the service.
Okay, so that's a paid
I
service, but
believe
it's online.
so.
Okay.
That's my understanding. If not, tell me and yeah, please.
So Dragon's online, Saxon's workbook style.
Saxon workbooks.
And Singapore is also workbook style.
Yes, I believe
right?
so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's all for me. I love math.
So I do actually love math.
You're very good at math.
I'm totally a nerd, and like for pleasure, I will create quilts because I enjoy sewing, but I enjoy using math to try to figure out how to end up with a rectangle that is actually rectangular. I find that really, I don't know, I just really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So the first math we started using, and it's actually still my favorite, is Math UC. Math UC comes in books that look like this. By the end of the year, they look a little thrashed. This is my middle schoolers, and they have the student workbook, they have a teacher book and a DVD, and then they have a test book. And one thing that I love about Math UC is these manipulatives that they have.
Manipulatives.
So these
Ooh, those are
manipulatives are great. And they have different colors to represent each number. So you've got 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 10. And then they have one for 100. And then they also have manipulatives for when you're working on fractions. But it's really great because a lot of curriculums use manipulatives. Mm-hmm. And so these ones aren't necessarily better than others. But by using it and touching it, it helps the kids see what they're doing. And by seeing it, it helps them understand why it works. And so you can use the manipulatives with adding, with subtracting. They use them with multiplication until they start to understand the patterns. What's really great about Math UC with teaching it, a lot of parents are uncomfortable teaching math, especially as they get up into the middle school and high school maths. Is the parent themselves don't remember how to do it.
Don't remember it.
And so they're a little afraid.
Because it's not like we use it in our everyday life.
Never. So with Math UC, they have the teacher manual, which we actually don't use very often, but they have the DVD. And on the DVD, it's the creator of Math UC. He gives a lecture on whatever that lesson is. He gives the lecture out loud. He has his chalkboard. He has huge versions of these manipulatives that he puts up on his board. It's a magnetic whiteboard, actually. And he goes to the lesson. So if there's a lesson that my child comes to me and has a question about, and I don't know how to do it, I can go and watch the video. And they're not very long. The most of them are 3 to 5 minutes, maybe. If it's diving into something new, it might be a little bit longer. But it's done in a way that my kids can very much do it independently. They watch the video on their own, and you either have a DVD or you can have digital ones, so you can just pull it up on a computer, because computers don't have DVD drives anymore. We actually have several computers that do, but several that don't.
Wait, tangent. I was watching a 90s cartoon on Disney Plus.
Okay.
And they had to go retrieve the files that were stolen, the super important files on the floppy disk. Oh my gosh!
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I've used many a floppy disk. Anyways.
All right, continue.
But the child is able to do most of the learning on their own. And then if they have questions, come to you. And then so how we would set it up is they would do it. They'd bring me their math book, and I would check the answers sometime during that day. And then I'd mark the ones that needed to be fixed. As my children get older, upper elementary, I would give them access to the answers, and so they would grade their own papers, and I would check it every now and then for a little accountability, until it came to the test book, and then I would always be the one to check the test book, because if they're getting all the questions on their test wrong, I knew that something wasn't sinking in, and that way I kind of would watch it. So Math UC is my favorite that I've used so far. Unfortunately, Math UC hasn't worked great for all of my children. One of my kids used teaching textbooks for a while, and it either comes with DVDs again, or completely online. And that one's a neat setup. They go through and teach the lesson on the computer, and then you have, I don't know, like 20 questions. And it's all done on the computer. It's graded right then and there. I think you have 2 tries to get the answer correct. And as the parent, you have a parent portal and the student has a student portal. So I can go in and see exactly which questions my child missed and got right and what their grade was for the assignment. It worked really well. One of the things that I really like about Math UC is it teaches a new concept, and each section has 6 lessons with it. And then it also has an added on like enrichment activity at the end. But the first 3, they call it A, B, and C of a lesson series, goes over just what they learned in that lesson. So it's giving them the repetition, and if they have it, skip the extra ones. Do A, skip B, and C. We did that with my oldest this year. There's no reason to do work if your child has already mastered something. And then D, E, and F, they have a little bit on whatever that lesson was, but then they pull in concepts from previous lessons. But I love that because they really get to kind of master a concept, but then they're constantly being reminded of what they've already learned in the book and the end of the lesson of the level prior to that, so they're not forgetting. Teaching textbooks, from what I saw with working with my daughter, it seemed to be a little bit more jumped around. They did do a lot of review, but I don't recall them doing quite as much like focused learning on a new topic right then and there. But for this particular child, it worked great. And then with my middle child, who's my youngest school age one, we actually switched to Beast Academy, and then number 2 switched to Beast Academy as well. Beast Academy is done online, and the textbook is written like a comic book. And so you read these comics.
Oh man.
Yes.
I'm going to look into that. I will actually research this.
So
my boys are loving this.
You read the comic, and it teaches you the lesson, and then you can either have paper copy of the workbook, or we have it online. And so they can read in the comic, read the lesson, and then they go online and they do the series of questions, and they're broken down into little groups. It's not a specific number, but it will be like 6 to 12 questions per little group. And then that one also gives them 2 tries to get the question right, which is great. If they get it wrong, it actually shows them how to work it out. And they can go back later and redo that lesson, trying to improve their score, which is kind of neat. I have a few kids who are incredibly competitive, even with themselves. And so it allows them to try to do better and to get better and give them practice while feeling rewarded, I guess. And if they get stumped, they also have videos on there, so you can click on the video, and he talks through kind of some of the steps that they do in the comic book of how to solve those particular problems. I've liked Beast Academy. I still think I prefer Math UC the most over all of them, but we've really liked Beast Academy. So we also bake.
Yes.
And cook, like we talked about.
Lots of baking and cooking.
But our very favorite activity of the year is the school day after Halloween. I have my kids take their bag of candy, and depending on how old they are, like my younger kids, I'll just have them grab out a couple of handfuls. My older kids, I make them dump that whole thing out on the floor, and we graph our Halloween candy. It's so dorky, but I don't know if they enjoy it because it's kind of a change of pace. We're doing something different, but we'll graph our Halloween candy. So I make them categorize, and I make them come up with the categories, and they have to look at it and see, okay, I can only have 10 categories because that's all that will fit on the paper or less. How can I put this candy in groups that make sense? And so a lot of times chocolate is one category. A lot of times like nut or suckers. I've had one child one year do it by color of the packages. These are my yellow candies. These are my brown candies. And categorizing is an awesome part of math. And so they get to kind of play with that, and I make them figure it out.
So we have the fraction and the decimal.
So then, depending on the age of my child, they have to add up all their candy. They graph it, and then they write the total on the bottom. This was my middle schooler, so she had to tell me what fraction of her candy each row fell into, like of the total, and then create the decimal for it. And then I will ask them questions. So like this one said, we did some predictions. She had worked on probabilities. And so we figured out which categories had an actual result that closely matched the mathematical probability. So she had a few questions about probabilities. My younger kids would have things like, which column has the most, which column has the least, greater than or less than. So I'll put like blank and blank with a less than sign in between, and they have to tell me this one has less than this one. And there's a lot of possible right answers, but it makes them think through what the possible right answers could be rather than there just being one right choice that they find from the page.
Yeah.
So that's actually one of our very favorite math activities of the year. So we school all year long. I don't know if you do, but
we kind of have to because
to fill in the gaps.
it's only to fill in the gaps, and it's like we only do it for a couple hours a day. So
we've used a couple of things during the summer to kind of keep our minds fresh. But two that we've really loved, in addition to Khan Academy, is IXL. The letters IXL. That one's really. They actually have math, language arts. I think they have all four of the core subjects. It is paid, but it's online. But it's very similar to Khan Academy. We've really liked that one. And then the other one that we've liked a lot is called Prodigy. So Prodigy is almost like a video game. You go around in this world. It's sort of like you're playing.
Do you need to get the floppy disk?
No. What's that game that your kids like with all the pixelated things? Minecraft, yeah. I have a house full of girls. Minecraft.
That's true.
It's kind of like Minecraft, where you're in this open world, but they're very secure servers that are moderated by moderators. But they are walking around this world, and they come across different beasts. Or bad guys and stuff, and so they have to fight them, and they get points for winning. But the way they fight is through answering math problems. And they can build a house, and they can put stuff in their house, and it's one of those programs that learns a lot. Like it learns what they know, and then like teaches them as they go, and makes it a little bit harder. Yeah, so it's constantly increasing what they're able to do. And my kids have a lot of fun with that when we play that during the summer a lot, just to kind of keep
them on their toes.
Sharp. Yeah,
that's awesome. I will say, like, with all the boys I have, and my husband's a gamer, therefore my boys are gamers now. The whole idea of a video game being so addictive and so I gotta win is that leveling up so much. So if there are games that do that with, actual learning. I am all for those.
You saying there's not actual learning in Minecraft?
No, there is tons.
Okay.
Yeah, my 5-year-old is brewing potions now, and he is so excited about it.
Amazing.
But yeah, I do think there is it's kind of an addictive, competitive quality. Oh, I gotta get better. Better. So yeah, games are amazing.
Yeah. So I do have to say one more thing about math.
Say it.
Okay. In our last episode, we gave you freedom to change things up and switch it around if it's not working for you. And that definitely holds true still for math. But the one thing that's tricky about math is all the math curriculums kind of teach in a different order.
They can. A different order, not a different way, but a different order.
A different way, a different order. Like what you might find in a level 2 of one math might be very different than a level 2 of another math. So like some of them introduce fractions when they first start talking about addition, and they talk about adding fractions in there. Others, fractions is its own level.
Yeah,
so
that's what
so
it's
math is one of those ones where totally change it up if it's not working. As you saw, my middle child, she's now on her 3rd math. She's 4th grade this year, so in 5 years. But we've had to do some fill in the gap learning in between, and she's very bright, and so she's been able to fill in the gaps. So math is one where if you're going to put the most research into something, not that it's more important, but that's definitely one where I would say research it and try to find what fits each of your children, because it is a harder subject to skip around but to transition to something else, and only because it's not taught completely linearly. Look around you. There's so many ways to make math fun. Like we talked about sewing, doing stuff in the garden. We have these little bears that are colors. And so I know what bears you're talking about. I love toddlers,
those bears.
We'll pick out a handful and put them on the table, and we'll count the colors. I mean, obviously that's a younger child activity, but there's a lot of really great things that you can do that involve math, where your child is practicing or learning skills that you might be able to sneak past them where they don't realize they're doing
They
math.
don't realize they're learning.
Yeah. And so there's just so many things around you that can be used to learn that you wouldn't traditionally think of as school academic core learning. It's amazing. So take the freedom to be creative and have fun and dive right on in.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of math, even if you suck at it.
You can learn along with your child. Remember how she talked about in the
That's what
previous episode how parents need their thing to learn too. Learn along with your kids. I haven't learned as much with math, but English, I'm a native English speaker. I was born in these United States. English is a weird language with so many rules, and I learn stuff all the time. History, I learn stuff all the time. So be excited about what you're going to learn about with your kids, and they will feed off of that excitement with you. So, all right, I hope that was helpful and gives you some ideas. We will see you next time.
Bye.